Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little subscribe button at the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, click that subscribe button. Really does help our channel grow, our audience grow, and I really do appreciate it more than you know. So click that subscribe button. Appreciate your support. Now, here's the video that you came here for. To a big piece of recruiting news off the court. And it involves the #1 high school player that is uncommitted in America, class of 2025, senior, enrolling in college next year. The guy you see on your screen right there, Nate Ament, okay? So we've talked about Nate Ament a ton on this channel and in the recruiting circles and stuff, but really interesting recruitment, okay? He was kind of a late bloomer. He did have a Duke offer early, but it wasn't until really last spring that the UConns and the Carolinas and the Louisvilles and the new Kentucky staff all came in. And really, it's been a long, winding recruitment. We talked about it all fall. He took 1 million visits in the fall. Texas, Notre Dame, whatever, blah, you know, you go on down the list, Duke, Louisville, etc. Well, I bring it up because about, a week or so ago, he officially cut his list to 5. Now, the 5 was not surprising, at least the first 4. Louisville was on the list. Duke was on the list. That's not surprising. They have been perceived as the leaders from day one. Tennessee was on the list. They're in the mix. They've been in the mix from the beginning. Kentucky was on the list. Kentucky, not surprising because Kentucky really picked up their recruitment of Nate Ament after they lost out on Caleb Wilson. Well, I bring it up because that 5th team was certainly interesting, the Arkansas Razorbacks. But even when he dropped that top 5, there was some momentum for Arkansas. I said behind the scenes, it feels like they're making up a lot of ground. But I bring it up because all the old Coach Cal haters, all the Arkansas haters said, yeah, it's great that he made a top 5, but he's never visited Arkansas. And until he visits Arkansas, they're not a real legitimate candidate. Well, I bring it up because on Tuesday, just hours before Arkansas got arguably their most important win of the season, we find out that, Nate Ament is traveling to Fayetteville this weekend and will use a last-minute visit with the Arkansas Razorbacks. So does it change the recruitment? We got to discuss, okay? So first of all, listen, we've talked about Nate Ament a ton. I'm not going to spend too much time breaking down his game here. Really good player, though, man. Really good player. 6'8", 6'9", handles the ball, finishes at the rim, gets others involved, three-point shooter. And like I said, he's a little bit of a late bloomer. Listen, you know, I don't want to put any label on any high school player, but there's NBA people that I've talked to that are like, listen, DeBanza is really good. Darren Peterson's really good. Cam Boozer is really good. Nate Ament might have the highest ceiling out of all of them because he is nowhere close to reaching his potential. So this is a special player, a special talent. And like I said, the recruitment has kind of been, you know, all over the place, but I don't mean that necessarily in a negative way. When you blow up late, you haven't been a kid that, you know, like Cam Boozer's been recruited since he was probably in 7th, 8th grade. DeBanza's probably been recruited since 7th, 8th grade. Darren Peterson has been for sure. This was all new for Nate Ament. And so I said, take your time, take all your visits. And so he did it. Like I said, visited a bunch of schools, some of them in the top 5. I remember he took a visit to Texas. He took a visit to Notre Dame. And and the recruitment's been just kind of up in the air ever since then. Now, like I said, Louisville and Duke to me were always the leaders, and with good reason. Duke is Duke. It speaks for itself. Louisville, you know, listen, Pat Kelsey's a beast. I respect the hell out of him. I would also say this, couple other things. One, they do have the 5-star point guard, Mikel Brown Jr., already committed, so kind of a nice piece to go along with them. And then, listen, this fans take thing, I don't know how much it matters. I don't feel like it's nothing, though. So this fans take app is this app where fans can contribute directly to NIL to their favorite players for their schools on the school's behalf. So in other words, Nate Ament set up an account and had 5 different accounts, right? And Louisville fans can donate money, and Kentucky fans can, and Tennessee fans can. Well, Louisville's running away with this thing. I mean, I looked it up the other day, like $80,000 raised that will go to Nate Ament if he commits. And so clearly the fan base wants him. Clearly there's mutual interest, etc. I'll tell you what, though, can't count out Cal because this Arkansas thing is coming. It is full speed ahead. It is a train on the tracks, and it is going quickly, okay? So, again, I think even 3-4 weeks ago, nobody really thought Arkansas was in the mix. But I said this when he cut his list to 5. I said, look, it's easy to say Arkansas isn't in the mix, but Coach Cal flew down on 2 separate occasions, and I think 2, maybe 3 separate occasions to see him in February, okay? And so why that mattered to me, Coach Cal ain't dumb, okay? If he knows he has no chance, he's not getting on that private jet, the PJ as the kids call it. He ain't getting on that private jet and flying down to see this kid, let alone a second and third time. What was noteworthy, the second or third time, the most recent one, Kenny Payne and Chin Coleman were with him. I know that everybody will tell you those guys don't know what they're doing either, and I think that's nonsense. I think they're both very good assistant coaches. Of course, Kentucky fans might have other feelings, but that's okay. But when you bring your 2 lead assistants with the head coach, I'm just here to tell you, I've been doing this a long time. I know well enough to know you don't think you have zero chance when you bring your 2 lead assistants. And so it's felt like it's picking up steam, and now he's officially coming to Fayetteville. And listen, I'm not a believer that the last visit is the most important. I've said this before with all these kids. Every visit is awesome, right? So every time a kid visits anywhere, the kid immediately, that school becomes, they've made up a lot of ground. It's like, yeah, of course they did, because he just went there and it was awesome. No one's ever had a bad time on an official visit, okay? And so, to me, what does the visit mean? I don't know, but it's not nothing either, okay? Because the bottom line is, look, if he wasn't seriously considering Arkansas, 1, I don't think he'd even put him on the Final 5. 2, Coach Cal wouldn't visit. And then 3, and this is where it gets important, I don't think the kid would visit if he wasn't seriously taking Arkansas as well. And so this visit is happening. By the way, I think it's Kevin McPherson is the name of the guy, the Arkansas Hoop Scoop or something like that. I apologize if I got his name wrong, whatever. But he had an interview with Nate Ament where he's like, Coach Cal's the real deal. Coach Cal's made up a lot of ground. And here we are a week, probably 3 weeks before the commitment, and all of a sudden, Arkansas appears to be very much in the mix. Last thing I'll say, and Arkansas fans will tell you this, if it comes down to an NIL situation, I like that holster that John Calipari has as much as anybody else. I don't know that it will, but it's not going to be nothing, right? And we know Louisville has money. We know Kentucky has money. We know Tennessee has money. Duke has money. Ain't nobody got more money than Arkansas, so that'll be interesting. I should mention one other thing, by the way, because we talked about this last week, is it's at least maybe sort of worth noting the Cam Boozer situation with Duke. We talked about this. Cam Boozer, number 2-3 player in America, Carlos Boozer's son, committed to Duke over Miami in the fall. He is from Miami. Duke's lead assistant, his lead recruiter, Jay Lucas, is about to take the Miami job. And I will just tell you, there are whispers upon whispers that Jay Lucas is going to flip Cam Boozer and his brother Caden to Miami. Now, I still have my doubts. I still kind of believe, if you're those players, are you going to bet on a first-year head coach? I know they're from Miami. I know they almost went to Miami anyway. But the counter to that to me is, you pick Duke because it's freaking Duke. But I will say it's something to keep an eye on, because if somehow Jay Lucas does flip the Boozer twins, that becomes an interesting byproduct in this recruitment where Nate Ament is needed that much more at Duke. So that could be something to pay attention to as well.